Hey there guys, Michael Griffiths here, founder of Referral Marketing Guru. Great to have you, whether you're watching us on Referral TV, listening to us on our Get More Referrals Today podcast, or watching us on our social platforms. Great to have you with us. Super excited. I've got Seth with me here all the way from New York. It is freezing over there. I'm in shorts and t-shirts here in summertime in Australia. Joys of technology. Really excited. I saw Seth about 2 weeks ago in Vegas. We were both there together speaking, and the things that he talks about and does, and are just a real great operator. And sometimes that's hard to find in business, and especially in marketing, it's hard to find. And since then, we've had some chats, and I thought, wow, what an amazing person. We've got to hear from him more. So here we are. Seth, thanks so much for joining me, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I have pages of notes on your speech as well, and hopefully you'll be joining us on our Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin and myself from Shark Tank, so thrilled to be here.
Yeah, no, lovely, fantastic. So start us off. We always love to know who we're actually speaking to. So what's the Seth story? Fill us in a bit about yourself, your background, and what you guys do right now.
Sure. So I am the founder of MarketDominationLLC.com. We are one of the top fastest growing direct response marketing firms in the US, according to Inc. magazine. I've written 7 best-selling marketing books. Number 7, Market Domination for Podcasting, is on the shelves at Barnes & Noble now. I'm the only person Dan Kennedy has nominated for his Marketer of the Year award 3 years in a row. And in addition to being the co-host of the Sharkpreneur podcast that you see behind me with Kevin from Shark Tank, I write for Funnel Magazine, if you're familiar with ClickFunnels, and Russell Brunson. I just started writing for Inc. So we try and be everywhere. And what we do is we attract new customers for our clients like magic. So we are a direct response marketing firm that encompasses a whole range of services, all designed to drive our clients new prospects, new leads, new clients, new customers, new patients.
Yeah, fantastic. So you just sort of got fingers in a few little pies going on here, and you're not going to be caught getting into trouble because you're bored. So, yeah, fantastic. And we talk all the time around you've got to have different channels. If you are relying on one marketing channel, then one day, unfortunately, you're going to wake up and that channel is going to be changed and your business is stuffed. So you need multiple channels. We happen to talk about one channel in referrals and partnerships. Then there are so many other channels. So I thought, hey, Seth's probably one of the most clued in people here to some of those other channels. So let's start talking about some of those. So Seth, for your own clients, talk us through some different things that you would suggest for them to have as marketing channels that will then help fill their leads bucket, as we call it.
Sure. I would work backwards. The first question we ask any prospective client is, who's your ideal client? Who is your target market? And 97.3% of the businesses that we talk to don't have that defined tightly enough. And half of all statistics are made up anyway, so who cares? So I'm thinking it depends. So the right network, the right platform for filling your leads bucket is going to depend on who your client is, on who you're looking for. So if I've got a financial advisor who wants to help 35 to 45-year-old young upwardly mobile couples with kids and dogs, well, then, Facebook might be the ideal place for him. If I've got someone who's looking for 80-year-old arthritic widows because they sell arthritis glop, well, then maybe direct mail with really big print is the place to go, or Quilter's Magazine or something, Arthritis Today or whatever. So it's all, some of those places are all going to be dependent. So what I'll toss out a few because you asked, but they may or may not be right for each one of your listeners because all of their businesses are different. So that's my disclaimer.
Yep. Great.
Okay. So Facebook would be my number one choice, probably, depending on the target market. They've got the most robust targeted advertising platform on the planet right now, fastest, cheapest way to test, and it's where we start for most of our clients. As long as their audience is on Facebook, if you wanted 18-year-olds, I would not be on Facebook right now. I'd be on Snapchat. So it just depends on, and all of my information, all of this is primarily US based. Just, there's another disclaimer. We do have clients in every time zone all over the world. However, the majority of our marketing is done in the US. So I would say Facebook would be my number one place to start. After that would probably be YouTube because it's the second largest search engine in the world. Number 3, if you're B2B, would be LinkedIn, which might be your number 1 place if you're business to business. And then number 4 would probably be Twitter, Google AdWords, podcasts. So let's go with the first 6.
Yeah, fantastic. And as you mentioned at the start, it's so important before you even worry about your marketing channels to understand your market. And it's amazing how many people just waste money going, well, we'll do a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of everything without really thinking about it, and turn up to trade shows and expos where their people aren't even at. And it's just a very lack of thinking. So great that's the first part of where we actually start. So I know your own podcast is very successful. Podcasting in general is being spoken about more and more and more and more these days. Why is podcasting such a good vehicle to get yourself out there?
It's a great question. The reason why, right now there are 1 billion listeners to podcasts. That's 1 billion with a B. And that number's projected to triple in the next 2 years. So it'll be 3 billion. So that's a lot of potential prospects. The reason why it's growing so fast there's 2 reasons. And again, I just wrote an article for Inc. magazine about this. Number 1 is the global proliferation of smartphones. Everybody's got one of these now. And a podcast is basically a radio show on your phone. As more and more people have phones, more and more people are consuming podcasts. The other reason, and I don't know if this applies internationally, but there's something called Apple CarPlay, where Apple has done a deal with most of the major car manufacturers that the Apple podcast interface now comes pre-bundled as a native app on your car's dashboard. So even if you don't have an iPad, iPhone, iCar, iMac, you're going to have sorry, I ruined my own punchline. Even if you don't have an iPad, iPod, iPhone, or iMac, you're going to have an iCar, whether you like it or not. So those 2 factors alone are pushing those numbers through the roof. So I think that's why podcasts are so important.
Yeah, perfect. And certainly as far as my knowledge for Australia, there's no iCar at the moment, but we're never that far behind.
I was going to say, I'm sure it's coming. Apple's not going to just leave the rest of the world to somebody else to dominate.
Yep, no, exactly right. So that's very exciting for people who are in this part of the world, thinking that you've just got some inside scoop on what's coming because it's already there in the US. So podcasting, that just seems too hard. I don't have enough in my head. Therefore, being on a podcast, having my own podcast, don't know if I can do that. But you don't even need to have your own podcast if you were very good at getting on other people's podcasts. Talk to me a bit about that.
Okay, so there's 2 different things I'm going to address there. If you want to be interviewed on other people's shows, you can, for publicity purposes, and I do a couple interviews a week about our business and what we do in our books and stuff like that. So if you want to be interviewed on other people's shows, you either need to get good at getting booked on other people's shows, or you could hire a firm to do it for you and be your booking agency and just get you as many bookings on relevant shows as you wanted. And that's relatively inexpensive. The other choice is have your own show. And you mentioned not having enough in your own head. I would hope you don't have anything in your own head, because you're not supposed to be the star of your own show. Your guests are. So the whole point of the way we do a podcast, see, a traditional radio show model is how most podcasts work. They build up a following and then sell ads and sponsorships, and that's how they make money. And I think that's a lot more work than the average entrepreneur wants to do. And it requires a second job selling advertising on your show. And to me, it's a giant waste of time. We designed a strategic model of a direct response marketing podcast where our entrepreneur, the host, could make money from the very first episode, even if 5 people listen to it. And we've literally had clients do that who made money from their show before episodes even aired, before they even had 100 listeners. I made money from my show way before Kevin was attached to it. And the first 8 listeners of my show, 7 of them worked for me. So there was 1 person who didn't, and that person paid us. So I would say that the point of a show is to not be on by yourself. It's really hard to be interesting by yourself for a long period of time. You know, the US WWE wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin had said he wanted to start a podcast for 2 years, and the first thing, the hurdle was he was afraid of the technology. And now you don't need any. You can just, all our clients do them on Zoom. That's it. That's all you need. And then the second thing he said he was afraid of was, he said he wanted to do a one-man show. He wanted to do a rant. You know, he just talks. And I said, Steve, even Tony Robbins doesn't do a rant for an hour and a half. Gary Vaynerchuk doesn't rant for an hour and a half. No, I got 20 years of wrestling stories. I'm fascinating. I could do it. I said, oh my God, please don't. First, he does it anyway. First show, he starts recording, 4 minutes, 37 seconds, dead air. Stops. I'm like, Steve, what happened? Well, I didn't know what to talk about. I'm like, you lasted for 4 minutes. You said you had hours and hours and hours of stories. He said, it's hard to do it by yourself. I said, exactly.
Yeah.
You got to have a guest. You got to interview someone. And one of the reasons for that is you're interviewing me. I'm going to go promote the fact that I was on the Michael Griffiths Referral Podcast to my email list, my Facebook list, my Twitter list, my LinkedIn list. My entire following is going to, and some of those folks are going to say, who's this Michael Griffiths guy? I'm going to go subscribe to the show. I'm going to go get his offer. I'm going to go buy his stuff. That's the whole point of doing a show, is you interview someone as a backdoor way to get in front of their list, because they'll promote that they were on your show because it makes them look good. It's a feather in my cap and an ego stroke for me to say, Michael Griffiths thought enough of me to put me on his show. Go check it out.
Yeah, brilliant. And if you are listening to this right now, Seth there has just given you every reason why you have to start doing this. The exposure, the opportunities, it's not about you having to have stuff. Anyone can organize an interview with someone else. Jump on Zoom, which is free for the first 40 minutes and up to 50 people. Well, your interview only needs to be
your interview should be 20 minutes to 30 at the most. So you're good with free Zoom.
So there is nothing right now that's stopping you. So Seth, thank you for highlighting all of those things. So podcast is one great way. Having a book, I know you talk about also, and look at with your guys as another way to get some great exposure. Let's quickly touch on that.
Sure. I want to address one other tiny thing about the podcast as an example. If you've heard of JLD, John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, he's one of the top podcasters in the world. He's been on my show twice. If I had said, hey, John, endorse me, probably never would have happened. And yet he's tweeted, he's posted, he's LinkedIn, he's emailed that he was on my show 2 times. He's one of only 5 people we've had on twice. I would have never been able to buy that endorsement or that mailing to his list, but for the podcast, he's happy to do it.
Yeah.
Now, in regards to a book, we absolutely think a book is the ultimate business card. So that's why I've written 7 of them. And the good news is I didn't write them. 3 of them are me interview transcripts of I interviewed other people on my podcast about a certain topic, edited those transcripts, put them together, made it look like a real book, made it read like a book as opposed to just an interview, and published them and then marketed them. So you don't have to write a book. You can talk a book, and it's a whole lot easier if you just take the people from your podcast, transcribe those interviews, which you could then use as social media posts. You could then use as blog posts. You could then use as ebook lead magnet giveaways. And then when you've got enough of them, put them all together, publish a book. And now everyone who was on the show who's in the book is going to promote the book launch because they're in it. So you got a double bang for your buck.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic.
And I've won 9-figure contracts with giant companies because every other vendor they interviewed had a business card on the table, and I dropped a stack of books. And that was it. Case closed. They just said, well, you wrote the book on the topic. We're hiring you.
Yeah. Business card can't tell that story. So no, fantastic. So you can start to see, again, whether you're watching this on Referral TV on YouTube, whether you're listening to this on the podcast, across our social platforms, you can see that once you understand who you need to talk to, there are so many different channels that most people aren't talking about. If the only person that you're thinking about hiring for your marketing is talking purely, well, let's run Facebook ads, and that's it, well, I'd question. It's not saying that that's not a good thing to be on, but as soon as supply and demand and all of a sudden those prices go through the roof, what's your next strategy? And that's why you need to be speaking to people that have multiple strategies, that actually look at, well, where should you be? Well, yeah, your target audience isn't on Facebook. So therefore, let's not force that just because everyone's talking about it. Let's do some of these other things also. So you need to be constantly thinking about, where are my channels? And therefore, make sure that we're speaking to people who can give you multiple channels and not just one channel. So Seth, you've seen so much in this beautiful marketing world we have. What are some of let's just go the top pitfalls, handful, that you see when people try to get exposure and market themselves?
Sure. So biggest marketing sin, biggest market that I see out there is being boring. The majority of marketing is very, very boring. The majority of marketing looks very similar. You know, you could take any major financial services firm in the US, at least. You could take a Morgan Stanley brochure, take the logo off, put a Merrill Lynch brochure on it, and no one would be able to tell the difference. They all look pretty much the same. So that's what I call marketing incest. Everybody copies everybody else, so everybody gets stupider. So I would say the most important thing is you got to stand out. You can't look like everybody else who does what you do. You have to package and position what you do differently so other people can recognize that and say, that's who I want. I got to hire that company, that guy, that girl, because that got my attention. If you look like everybody else, I mean, how are they supposed to pick you? How are they supposed to believe that you are different? You know, if the compelling reason to choose you is you give great customer service, and everybody says that, statistically, a whole lot of those people have to be wrong. And if everybody's saying the same thing, the customer doesn't know who to believe, and a confused mind doesn't buy. So I would say number one is being boring. Number two is not narrowing down your target market tightly enough. And number three is not having an irresistible, compelling offer.
Yeah, nice. Fantastic. That's great. Anything else you'd like to share to the people watching, listening, that I haven't asked at the moment?
How many days do you have?
Yeah. Let me rephrase it. So
thank you.
What would you say has been the number one thing that's helped you guys go from just starting out, not really being known, to where you sit today?
Wow, so many. That's a household. Okay, so 0 to household name in the industry. Wow. So there's we practice what we preach, and we've taken massive action. And I mean, we do 133 different, I don't know one way to get 1 million clients, but I know 133 different ways to get clients. We've done them all with varying degrees of success, obviously. So I would say writing books, having our own show, being interviewed on other people's show, building a large social media following, speaking at live events, networking, and referrals.
Yeah, nice. Fantastic.
And of course, doing a great job for our clients.
Yep, without a doubt. Perfect.
If you don't do a good job, then all this stuff that we're talking about and all the referral stuff that you've learned from Michael will do is get more people pissed off faster.
Yeah, so true.
I'm going to presume that when people hire you, they are happy.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
And we don't bat 1,000. We're not perfect. We've screwed up more times than I'd like to admit, but nobody will work harder to fix it than, the people who cashed the check in the first place.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. So, Seth, how do people find you?
We are at marketdominationllc.com. If you want a free copy, a free download of my new book, The Market Domination for Podcasting book, it's at marketdominationllc.com/podcast. If you want to listen to the show, it's Sharkpreneur. And again, if you want to talk to us, go to marketdominationllc.com, click the ManyChat, the messenger bot, or click the I want to schedule a consultation and get on our calendar.
Yeah, fantastic. And you'll see links in the descriptions below. If you're on social media, we'll be tagging Seth into this so that you can connect to him and see the various links that he's been talking about. Seth, absolute pleasure to have you with us. I know it's a wealth of knowledge and we can only cover like 1/100th of what's in your head right now. But at least we've got ourselves going. And I would be connecting with Seth and looking at different opportunities. He's a great person. If you've got a business community that you're looking for someone to be on your podcast, if you're looking for someone to speak at your event, I certainly, after seeing and hearing Seth, would recommend you talk to him about him being able to do that for you also. Otherwise, Seth, thanks so much for for being around, hanging out with us, talking to our guys, and look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor.
Absolute pleasure. So guys, thanks so much for joining us. If you're watching us Referral TV on YouTube, if you're on our social platforms, if you're listening to this on Get More Referrals today, make sure that you subscribe to one of those channels so you never miss meeting a great person that we happen to find. Always bringing you great stuff, helping you generate more referrals, create partnerships, but more importantly, grow your business because you're around other great people. And that's what it's all about. Till next time, guys, take care, and I'll talk to you later.